Hi, welcome back to another episode of Cold Stream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. This week's episode, we're going to continue working on the Camber Ladies chassis, trying to get the rest of the suspension components on, ultimately trying to get the wheels onto it. We've got the rear end sandblasted, so I'm hoping to get that painted and assembled. We've got a few of the brakes and whatnot to put on the front, but basically trying to push the chassis back to a roller. And then if time allows, I'll do some more work on Ellie's coupe. There's still some more sheet metal parts on that to do. But anyways, and it's also summer, so we might just go for a drive somewhere in between here. So anyways, follow along and see what we're up to. Well, today we've got a few more things put on the Camber Ladies chassis. We have the spindles on and the brake caliper brackets are in place, plus the steering arms. One thing I want to point out, and it's easy to get caught out on this, when you're installing the kingpins in this lower thrust bearing here, you want to put enough shims in so that it's tight, but you actually don't keep shoving them in. You need on the top here between 5 and 15 thou clearance with a shim stock. So feed your shims in until things are tight, but you need 5 to 15 thou clearance up top. If you put too many shims in, things will bind up and wear excessively. And obviously, if you don't put enough shims in, you'll have the opposite problem. But anyways, that's just one thing I wanted to point out. We've covered doing the front ends quite a few times, so I didn't cover putting all of it together. There's quite a few videos we've done putting front ends on 32, 34, and well, we did Mustang 2 on a 35, but mostly 32 and 34s we've put this kind of front end on it. I've also got the unisteer in place, plus the I guess you want to call it pitman arm, I guess is what it would be, but it's the cross steering bar, and then the tie rod end is on as well. Basically got that loose adjusted for the time being. I don't want to tighten that up just yet, because what I'll do is when I'll have the rotors on, we'll put some bars across the rotors and we'll adjust the toe in. The other thing we put in was the panhard bar. Again, that's in loose, because when we put the load onto it, I need to be able to adjust it so that it's not pushing it one way or the other. When everything is fully loaded up, this will be adjusted so that it's just, when you move it back and forth, it's not pushing one way or the other. It's kind of like a neutral position. So that'll be adjusted and tightened up later. On the back end, just because I put the coilover shocks together, getting ready for the rear end. And then over in the other building, we're working on the rear end. So here's the 9-inch Ford rear end that we're putting in the Camber Ladies chassis. It's been previously sandblasted in last week's video. One thing, there was just a little bit too much pitting. Nothing that would compromise the housing. This is out of an F-150. I know it's a little bit overkill for the hot rods, but one thing about using it, you've got lots of beef into them. So I'm just doing just a little bit of cosmetic body fill on some of the areas just to smooth it out some. You're not going to be able to see it much underneath with the 32 Roadster because we're going to have a gas tank in the back, but I just wanted to pretty it up just a little bit. So once I get that all clean, finished sanded, we'll blow it off. I'm not sure whether I'm going to paint it outside or if I'll drop the curtains down, but we'll tape it all off, put epoxy primer onto it, and paint it black. There's the first step on the rear differential housing. We've got 2 coats of epoxy primer on it. I will let this set overnight, and then we will put a couple coats of gloss black onto it, and then we'll be ready to start putting it into the Camber Ladies 32 Ford chassis. Well, today I planned on painting the rear housing, but little did I know I didn't have activator, and it's Sunday. So what I did instead, cleaned down the pumpkin here, wire wheeled everything down, wiped it all off, put a couple coats of black trim clad onto it. I'm just going to let it sit and harden up overnight kind of thing. Probably won't go into the housing for a few more days anyways. And then I found my shocks. I've got a coat of, cleaned those up and prepped them and put a coat of black paint on those too. So today was a little bit slow, but still adding piece by piece. It takes one part at a time to put it together. Well, we're inching away on getting stuff ready for the Camber Ladies chassis. The rear differential housing is now painted gloss black. Kind of happy with it. Put a couple coats on already. Put the curtains up, and we're just going to let her dry there for a day or so, make sure everything hardens up real good. It's dry to the touch right now, but I kind of like to leave things for a little while, as you've probably noticed. Then the front calipers there, we have everything black on the front end. There's black rims, so decided to paint the calipers Ford engine red. That's an engine, ceramic engine enamel that we put on them. So just to give it a little bit of contrast in the front end. I know they're hanging off the engine stand, but I gave them a little paint, and we're just going to leave them there to dry overnight. And then we're going to carry on with some more assembly work. Now that the rear end's all painted and dried, what I'm going to do next is we're going to prepare the axles and get her cleaned up and started putting it over into the chassis. So in order to determine the length of the axles we need, I bought this tool quite a long time ago. I got it from the Dutchman. There's a number of different, there's a phone number there if you want to buy the same one, but there's a number of different companies that sell an axle measuring tool. So what you do, take your measuring tape, put it there, measure to the end of your flange, and then you add 2.5 inches for the brake offset. So over here on the bench, I bought two cut-to-fit axles. I'd already pre-measured them a while ago. I knew that I needed to buy the longer one and the short one. I've done this 3 times before. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take those 2 measurements. I'm then going to measure from the flange here up along here. I'm going to put some tape around it, put a mark onto it, and cut them off to the right length. Now, another modification we have to do to these cut-to-fit axles is, for whatever reason, the register right here is always too big for the drums. Now, whether that's a Dodge register and we've got Ford drums, I'm not really sure. But I've got 2 choices. Basically, open up the register on the drum, or take these to a friend's place. We'll put them on the lathe and we'll take a little skim off the outside of this register so that, and I prefer to do that because then in the future, if you ever have to change the drums, then you're not opening the drums back up again. You've made the register fit your drums. So anyway, I'm going to carry on with that. We'll get these cut. And then what I'll probably do is I will take the housing, we'll clean the inside out, I'll take it over to the other garage, and then I will start putting the pumpkin in it and get it fitting into the frame. And just like that, we cut the axles to length. I didn't mention how I was cutting them. You can cut them a number of different ways. I've done them on a chop saw with an abrasive wheel. I think I could probably use my carbide cutoff saw there. The metal is, I don't know if it's hardened, but it's tougher. So I just chose to use the mini grinder here with the thin wheel, cutoff wheel. Just basically worked my way around, put a groove all the way around the black mark, and just working my way through. It only took a couple of minutes to do. And then when I was done, I just took a mini grinder and I put, like with a flapper wheel like that, and you just put a little bit of chamfer all the way around and polish the ends off a little bit, and that's all it takes to do the cut-to-fit axles. Like I said, now I got to clean the axle. I've got to take the inner races off of the inside too, and then clean those holes out because the original inner races are still into it. So I'm going to take the slide hammer, pull those out, clean it up, and then get her prepared to go in the chassis. Now that I put the pumpkin in the rear housing, I'm setting up the rear end in the chassis. A couple measurements to consider is, one, the wheelbase is 106 inches. So from the center of the front spindle there to the center of the rear axle should be 106 inches. Right now we're sitting there at 106. Then the next step here, we're just playing with the pinion angle. Want to get the pinion angle at approximately 3 degrees. The rule of thumb is 3 degrees in the pinion angle and 3 degrees on the engine. But the absolute thing to do is whatever pinion angle you have, whether it's 3, 2.8, 3.1 or whatever, it matches the angle of your drive line. So you have 2 parallel lines. So ultimately, I'm going to get that as close to 3 degrees as I can. Once I get the engine and transmission in there, double check that. So long as I have the drive line and your pinion angle matching, give or take 0.1 or 0.2 degrees, I should never have any amount of vibration in my drive shaft. So right now I'm really close on the pinion angle. I'm going to mess around with the upper bars a little bit. I think I'm just about 3.4, 3.5, so I've got to adjust the top bar. Anyways, I'm going to carry on with that tomorrow and call it a night. Well, I know it doesn't look much different than a few minutes ago, but spent the last few hours lining the rear end up some more. I do have 3 degrees. Right now I have the axle right here at the wheel height, so the center of the axle is at the same height as the wheel. I did the same thing for the front. Both of them are under full spring load, so everything is kind of up a little bit. I've got my 3 degrees like I wanted to. Another thing, like I said, I needed to do is pull the inner races out of the axles. Normally that's not that difficult to do. I've done it quite a few times, but these ones were extraordinarily stubborn. Used a slide hammer and everything else, but ultimately had to get the rotary file and then, as you can see, put a notch into them so that we could take a little bit of a tension off. I think the issue was there's quite a bit of corrosion or rust around the lip where the seal goes. So we got those all cleaned up and ready to go right now. I can't go any further this week for 2 reasons. One, I have to take the axles over and get the outside register turned down. And then on the front end, I'm waiting for some inner seals to go on the rotors. So I think that's as far as we can go this week. That's it for this week at Coldstream Rod Shop. It's kind of as far as we can go. Like I said before, we're a little bit on a summer schedule, so we're still working in the shop, just not as much. I'm out splitting wood at the moment. So, but in the case of the Camry Ladies chassis, we're kind of at a standstill at the moment. Like I said previously, I'm waiting for some seals for the rotors. Should be in the next day or two. And then to finish off putting the rear end, I just have to turn the registers down. But that's it. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Come on back next week, and everybody have a great week. And this episode is dedicated to Danny Baltzer. He's a local hot rod enthusiast, founding member of Deuce Devils. He passed away in June. So anyway, rest in peace, Danny. Everybody take care.